Hey, welcome to the coaches meeting. That's the coach. I'm Grant Cohn. You're in the meeting. The owners had their annual meeting earlier this week, and it was unexpectedly newsworthy. It was very interesting, and it was to me, it was interesting because the Niners didn't have their story straight. They seemed like they did, but Coach, let me tell you how I saw it, and I want to know how you saw it. John Lynch talks first. So the backdrop is 2 months ago, I asked Kyle Shanahan, who's your quarterback, and he says, I don't know. We have two starters. Cut to the owners' meetings. John talks first alone. Same question. He says, Brock's doing great. We hope we're going to have him for training camp, and we're just going to hold down the fort until he gets back because we've insulated the position. And I'm like, so hold on. So Brock's the starter as soon as he gets back? And he goes, well, he's certainly the leader in the clubhouse. Cut to the next day. Kyle Shanahan asked the same question right off the bat, and he's like, well, yeah, Brock would be the leader if he didn't get hurt, but he did. And so now that opened up an opportunity for Trey and also Sam Darnold. And he went on and on and on talking mostly about Trey and Sam Darnold on day two, which was very interesting to me. How do you interpret that?
Well, in some ways you could look at it let's go half glass full, okay? Let's say that right now Brock is hurt, and what they want to do is they want to give Trey a path to not only compete, but win the locker room at the same time, right? For what it said about all of the things that we want to say about Trey, Brock has played more than Trey. Mm-hmm. He has time on task. You gotta own that. And with that said, I think that they're talking to a lot of people that are listening to these meetings, not just us. Players are listening to these meetings. They're trying to figure out what the tone is in the locker room, or they're forecasting about what they're probably going to see moving forward. And also, the Niners have a tight cap. They're asking a lot of veterans to move some things around. And you got to be galvanized about where the team is going when you ask another man to move his money to make things happen. So is this entire conversation for us, the faithful? No, right? Does it sound like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth? Yes, because they are. And what they're hoping is that we don't have a memory to hold all of these comments together and, and actually. And
I feel like most fans don't.
Yeah, they don't. They just follow. Yeah. They follow
whatever the team said last.
Right. But we're putting together a totality of what you've been saying, and it's not making sense. If you want to keep it in a vacuum, if we're literally just hearing what they say in the moment, this sounds like everybody's got a shot. We don't want to bury our guy who we really want to keep. We don't want to kill the confidence of our backup. But at the same time, we don't want to seem so galvanized around a guy that hasn't played and have our locker room looking at us.
That's what Kyle sounds like. To me, John buried Trey on day one of the annual meeting. He's like, Brock's coming back. He's going to be back for training camp. We hope. We hope he'll be back for training camp, and we'll just hold down the fort until he comes back. That's all. And then he went on at the end and said, we think he's special. The way he played. Doesn't matter that it was only 8 starts. Kyle the next day is like, he may not be back until week 4. And basically what he was saying was Trey would have had a really good year last year too. But he went down, opened up an opportunity for Brock, and we all saw what Brock did. But now Trey has the same opportunity because Brock went down. And if you keep the logic going, that means if Trey tears it up, then all of a sudden the equation is different. It might be his job. So I just thought it was interesting that John and Kyle seem like they were saying two totally different things, but they smile while they say it. So it doesn't seem like they're, arguing with each other.
They're not in lockstep.
They're not in lockstep.
They're not. They're not in lockstep. And one of the reasons why I think they're not in lockstep is because I think that John is trying to quell what would be Trey wanting to get traded, Trey wanting to get out of here. I feel like the way John is talking about Brock while he's hurt, I feel he's just trying to keep what they all want. I hate to put this way, but this weekend pretty much solidified for me that the Niners didn't want Trey Lance. They just wanted a rookie quarterback. They just wanted an affordable position to keep together their roster. I think they love the roster more than they actually care about the quarterback position.
Agreed.
And yeah, and
they're so in love with that roster.
Yeah, we're really in love with the sum of all parts, but the most important guy in the room, we treat him like he's an appendage, like he can just be fixed, and
like he's a pledge in a fraternity, right?
Yeah.
Hey, if I'm clean my room.
If I'm Brock, I don't like these conversations either. Like, I just got put on the slab. My elbow is in limbo. I don't know when I'm gonna be back, and I got my GM talking about it's my locker room. It's like, if I'm looking at
and Brock, the hope is that he's back for training camp. Like, dude, you don't know.
I'm looking at Brock, I'm going back into the past history of the quarterbacks that's been through this organization to look how they've been handled with their injuries. Like,
dude, call up RG3. Call up RG3. Please call up RG3, Brock. See what he has to say.
This weekend was interesting, man. And it didn't align with it. All right, so the theme is, we understand that they're being inconsistent because we're keeping tabs, right? We're putting all of the comments together. This gets wildly hilarious if you really go back to even when we got Trey. Like, think about the comments of why they went and got him. About, I want a quarterback, not just an athlete. We want somebody that can process. We're not doing this for the long haul. He's not here he's not a place gap. He's supposed to be here for 10 plus years. And here we are, 5 starts in, and you get 8 games mid-season out of your 7th round pick, and now he's fighting for 2nd round spots with Sam Darnold.
How did we get here?
You can't tell me that you were serious about the development of this quarterback. You thought that he was good enough for what you already had. You weren't interested in making this kid better. And this is clear, because if you look at it this way, who's to say, this is what really frustrates me about this, who's to say that Trey is even going to get looked at as doing good in practice? They didn't see it with Brock.
Right. Yeah. It's true.
Brock was a surprise. Anybody, I mean, I know revisionist history, everybody loves to say, oh yeah, we saw it in practice and this is what we did. Outside of Larry Krueger, there's nobody on the face of this planet that could say that they saw what Brock Purdy was going to do. So where's the responsibility matrix? How are we really going to look at? I don't think we know how to evaluate young quarterbacks. I honestly think that Brock snuck up on us.
They did. He did. I got a theory. I've always felt that this trade up was more of a Kyle thing and maybe a Jed thing than John. John never really, I mean, he wanted Jimmy. He traded for Jimmy. He's the one that pulled that off. Then Kyle was the one that's like, I don't want Jimmy anymore. I want someone else. So I kind of always feels like John was the one in the background being like, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't get this guy. Like, he was, like all the things that Niner fans say about Trey Lance that they don't like about him, I feel like he was saying that stuff privately. I can't prove it. I don't know. And now it's like he's eager to turn the page. Whereas Kyle, he was probably the one who convinced Jed to trade up in the first place, that it was time to move on from Jimmy. And they probably agreed on Trey at the very end. So Kyle is more like, hey, man, wait a second. Like, I'm not ready to totally close the door on that the way the general manager seems to be. That was interesting to me. But at the same time, Kyle now brought Sam Darnold in. And while he's leaving an opportunity for Trey Lance to do something, he's really talking up Sam Darnold. Like, what the hell is that?
Well, he's talking up Sam Darnold because I just feel like he's just a low cost effective Trey Lance. Like, I think that how we saw Trey Lance being, now that the season is kind of like, showing itself a little bit more, it's kind of, I don't think that they're in on Trey Lance. I don't think that I think that what we kept saying, remember how we kept saying, like, well, why are we running the Trey Lance offense? Like, why don't we run some of the stuff that's more Jimmy centric? But I don't think they believe he can do that. Because what's even more emblematic of that is what they rolled out with him, the physical running the ball out of the backfield, the option stuff. But then what really killed me is, like, they went right to the Jimmy stuff with Brock. They were able.
And what's crazy too is They let Trey do the Jimmy offense one time against Houston. He won. So it's like, I don't care what they think they see in practice, man. In one of his 4 games, he was allowed to run the actual offense. He destroyed Houston. They won. I don't understand that. I don't get that. Like, they feel he can't do it.
I don't know what I think that how our team is constructed, right? With players all over the place. I don't think that our team is built for a franchise quarterback. I don't think that the coaching staff can handle a guy that's going to take that much money where we're going to have to cater to him. You know, when you get a franchise quarterback, if you think about it, like the entire team is through the guise of what he does. The type of offense that we run, we got to make sure that we have the right defense. We got to make sure that we have the right receivers and pass catches. And a lot of that means that the coach and the staff have to take a back seat.
Look at the Packers the last 15 years.
Yeah.
The Packers. The Niners are kind of like the anti-Packers. The Packers have just been Aaron Rodgers the last 15 years. I mean, he undermines everyone in the organization, and he's the most powerful person by far. The Niners, they passed on Aaron Rodgers. They didn't want Aaron Rodgers because of his personality.
I don't think that team is built for a franchise quarterback. The quarterback of this team is Kyle Shanahan.
I agree. What did I want to ask you? One more thing. Sam Darnold. Knowing how Kyle Shanahan thinks, do you think he's looking at this as like, you know what? Brock Purdy, God knows what he'll be when he gets back. Trey Lance, also God knows. I bet I can make Sam Darnold really good. Look what I do with Brock. Isn't that what? Do you think that's what he's thinking? Like, look, I don't need Trey to be great. I can make freaking Sam Darnold. Look what I did with Brock. Isn't that what he's thinking?
I love disagreeing with you. But from what we're seeing. From what we're seeing more and more, they don't respect that position as much as other teams do. And they think that they can engineer it just like we've engineered other positions on our team. But this is the only thing where this is the only position where you can't throw multiple bodies at it. It's got to be literally one guy. And you know what I mean? I love the adage of like, oh, we have the cheapest quarterback room in the NFL. What does that mean? There's only one guy under center.
Room. Ain't no room.
We have to man, famous losses. It's coming because again, I keep going back to the Super Bowl, man. We're not even the best at what we do anymore. The Eagles are.
Yeah. Defense and running. Yeah. Their run game's better. Honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we look at what the Eagles went up against with the Chiefs, that wasn't enough.
No.
So and then we're sniffing around for Kirk Cousins during the combine.
Like, come on. What are we doing? We're spinning our wheels here. Official BNN Music 88 says Niners fans 2020 and 2022 will be New York Jets, Carolina, because they have that bum Sam Darnold. Niners fans 2023. We got Sam Darnold.
Screw Trey Lance. Exactly.
On our team? Whenever players come to the Niners, Niner fans are like, oh, man, he's going to be so great with Kyle. 2.0 says, agree with Coach. Niners have said they thought Trey was better. They hoped that he would come in and be at Jimmy's level right away. When he wasn't and they found Purdy, who was, that was it for him. See, but I feel like what we just said is that Kyle left the door open for Trey. Where John was trying to close it on Monday, Kyle opened it on Tuesday. But he also opened it for Sam Darnold.
Exactly. Like he didn't hone in on Trey. He just kind of mentioned honestly, if you really want to just kind of like chop through the coach speak, he's like, Trey can't stay healthy. So until Trey figures out how to stay healthy, he's persona non grata.
We need two guys. But he also said Brock's hurt. We have to put him on hold for now. Kyle said that.
Yeah.
John was over here being like, we hope he's gonna be back for training camp. Like, okay, you can hope whatever you want. I hope I'm gonna have another growth spurt.
I mean, but this is the thing. We're just still we're still kicking that can, right? Because they were talking like this before Brock got a second opinion. They were talking like this before Brock got the surgery postponed, and we still didn't know what it was. And then they lucked out, and then they found nothing in there, and then he got the brace instead of the full Tommy John. So if you're looking at what they're doing, John is just smiling and nodding through it all. He's not, and he's just hoping that something doesn't blow up in their face until it does. then he'll just talk it down.
Right. Like John's all in with Brock, but Kyle's over here thinking he can do this with any quarterback ever. So they're a little bit different messages.
I mean,
Corey
being
says,
one game out doesn't help that either. You know, we still were one game out.
Corey says, I have a strong aversion to dumbassness. You failed consistently at the most important position. It isn't will they fail at the Lance Project. They already have. And this should be a big deal. I know. And that's why when John was saying, like, pretty much closing the door on that, it's like, dude, are you sure, like, Jed's okay with that? Like, Jed, you're making Jed look stupid. Jed okayed that trade. Like, you're really going to shut the door on Trey Lance after 4 starts? Like, you're making the organization look incompetent. And that's why I wasn't surprised the next day when Kyle was like, whoa.
Grant, at the 3rd overall pick, man, who got 4 starts, bro? 4 starts?
They're treating him like he's Paxton Lynch. It's ridiculous. Paxton Lynch got 4 starts. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, so let's make some predictions. What do you think? Give me your realistic expectations for Brock Purdy this year. When do you think he comes back? How do you think he performs? Like, if you had to really look in your crystal ball, what do you think is a realistic expectation?
Realistically, because he's going to have every advantage afforded to him, right? If you ever seen the 49ers training staff work hard, you about to see them work hard with Brock, right? So that that's going to be tested. I would say Brock is supposed to be at the earliest week 4. John is saying week 1. When he comes back, we got to see if he's even throwing. And then we got to see how he's feeling and what he's looking like when he's throwing. And then they're going to lie to us for a month and tell us that he's in the practice window.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Right. You know, that whole song and dance.
The practice window. Yep.
Yeah. So practice window, then they'll lie. I'd say week 8, week 10.
Wow.
This season's not going to be about Brock. And if I see Brock, if I see him very early, then that means either two things. He's Jesus Christ, or we're just waiting for his arm to fall off on the line.
Or they're 0-3. Or they're like 0-3. Yeah, absolutely.
So, if Brock, this is the way I see it. If Brock comes back early, there's no way he's ready. And that means that Sam and Trey look really bad. Right? Really bad. If Brock doesn't come back early, then that means that they got to fight to see what's going to happen between Trey and Sam, and we got to get a 3rd quarterback. So I think that Trey, I'm still on the Trey train, man. I just think that it's football malfeasance to give up on a guy that you put that much into, no matter what your true intentions were. Who cares? You did it.
Or what you think you saw from him in practice. You gave up too much. You haven't seen enough games. But we'll talk about Trey next. With Brock, week 8, I think that's interesting.
Week 8 by 10 through there.
Whenever he comes back, I'm curious to see what he looks like. Because whenever he comes back and they're saying, all right, Brock is going to play now. Like, you had no off season. I mean, maybe he had some, like that practice window, like you said. But two issues I'm looking at. Confidence coming off this injury. Like, Jimmy was never the same after his ACL. What is your confidence level? And also, timing. Rhythm and timing. No offseason. Like, if he's lacking in those 2 areas, how good is he going to be mid-season? Well, that's what I want to see.
Just to add those, the common denominator with that is arm talent. Like, confidence in your arm. You know what I mean? Like,
does he just become like a check down machine more than he was before? Like, what? Because he had a ton of confidence on the field when he played. That was one of the best things about him. Like, is that still there?
Right.
Because Jimmy had a ton of confidence when he first came here too, and then it was gone.
I don't see a path for him to be back any time before week 8 of the season. And if he is, you rest assured. I mean, it's biology. Rest assured, you're going to see that on the field. And I don't know what our team looks like with Brock's arm weaker. And let's also talk about an element that we're not talking about with the league seeing him coming now. You know, we spent 8 weeks in the middle of the season with a quarterback who processed and got the ball out, with a team that was hot and ready and primed to play. And that's not week 1 of the season. That's not even week 1 of how the Niners typically start a season. We warm up. We don't start fast. And with the league being able to have a good 8 weeks of game film on Brock, I do believe that he's going to regress to the mean. He's still going to be a second-year guy coming off the injury, right?
Yeah.
NFL's a meritocracy. So I don't – if he comes back early, it's going to look bad.
Dude, if they open up that practice window, and he doesn't look confident and his timing is off, his accuracy is off, his arm doesn't look the same, there's no reason to play him, man. Because if you put him out there and he struggles, you're not going to look – I mean, your fans are going to be upset because they're going to say, okay, so we have no quarterback on this team now. We have no quarterback.
You know what's crazy about that, Grant? The irony of that would be, so you trounce the rookie, the 7th-round rookie off injury. You trounce him out early, but you won't play Trey. But you know, all those times that Trey could have played, you won't play Trey. Like I feel like they're forever.
Right.
Brock and Trey are forever linked because no matter how hard every time you push Brock to get on the field, it's what you're saying about Trey. Right. And they can't get away from that. Right. Yeah. Because Trey is the guy who you spent all this, the brain trust is what got Trey. You guys got Brock off of a flyer from Slowick. Right. So what you're saying to me right now is that if Trey, and then also, how are they going to eat crow when Trey becomes what some of us think he really is? Right. How's that going to come down? Right?
Exactly. So that's why I feel like Kyle had to walk back what John said yesterday. It's like, dude, you can't do this yet because Trey's still on our team. We don't know how this is going to play out. We don't know what the future is for either one of these two players.
Yeah. And it also probably shows how Kyle talks about Trey to John when he gives him like sit reps on situational reports on how's things going over time. The fact that it's not the fact of what John said about Trey. Again, it's what John said about Brock. You know, and like for him to be that gregarious about how he feels about Brock, he has the locker room. How do you know that?
How do you know that? Yeah.
How do you know he has the locker room? And why are you saying that publicly? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it was a blind spot. It didn't look good.
It was interesting. Tyler says, Coach, I feel this organization and their quarterback situation is continuing problem. It's like a can of worms that constantly gets worse every single day. I don't think we are ever going to fix it. Their quarterback situation.
Well, I think that when you have Joe Montana and Steve Young who come through our organization, I mean, I feel like there's a little bit of hubris and a little bit of entitlement to what we think we could do with the quarterback position. But I honestly think that that's kind of like quite the opposite. We're just not respecting the position. Like, we got to get a guy in there who's really going to do what he needs to do. And the fact that we're just not making Trey compete against Sam Darnold is like, how do you
Let's finish up this Brock Purdy topic real quick, though. One thing I feel like, so we say he's going to come week 8. He's going to come back week 8. I just feel like whenever he plays, he's not going to be what he was like last year. I think he's going to be inferior. And I think the best case scenario for the Niners is he doesn't play at all this year. He does not play at all. You want to give him an entire year to recover and give him an entire offseason to prepare for the next season. That's, I think, best case scenario. And they can do that if one of Trey or Sam Darnold has the offense humming like Brock Purdy did last year. I don't know if either one of them can do it, but that's best case scenario for the 49ers is that Brock doesn't play this year. Because if he does, man, what's it going to look like? His stock could plummet. No offseason. You know, what's the timing going to look like? What's the confidence going to be? So
that's why I feel
if he gets hurt again, geez.
Sorry for cutting you off.
You could ruin it.
That's what makes me fearful for Brock, because it's like, as much as they want you, you do understand that the moment you're not giving them what you want.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
If he goes back on the field and looks like he's just like Peter Pan without his powers, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, you know what?
Yeah. And then the buzzwords will start coming in. Well, he was a 7th-round pick. He's a young guy.
Yeah.
You know,
league caught up to him.
Lead up. Yeah. All of that.
Hey, it was a serious injury. A serious injury.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that right now, I hate to say this, but it's almost kind of like the Niners are like the man. Like, they cannot be trusted. It's like, you guys want that ring. And you don't care what career gets destroyed because of it.
Kaliki Carroll says, love how Niners brass thinks Brock's going to come back like he didn't have an injury. There's a chance he regresses like Nick Mullins. Quincy Avery said Trey's a special quarterback. Avery coached up Jalen. Again, what I'm trying to say here with this show is that Lynch did that. Kyle didn't. Lynch said Brock's coming back. He's the leader. Kyle said the first thing out of his mouth, yeah, if he weren't hurt. It'd be real easy if he weren't hurt. That's the way it is. Mad Trucker says Kyle planned Trey gained confidence in his skill, comp with Sam, look good in preseason, start 3-4 regular season games compared to Purdy's 8 games. We're going to talk about the plan for Trey next. Impulsive says, can you speak on the new rule that says handoffs must be next to or behind the quarterback? It could drastically change some offensive schemes if not clarified. I haven't heard that.
I haven't heard that at all.
Next to or behind the quarterback.
And they're saying they can't do that?
Next to or behind the quarterback? So you can't do like
next to or about. Oh, so they must not. Oh, so maybe you know how they hide the ball? They hide the ball on play action and they turn their back to the defense. Maybe you can't. Yeah. Maybe you can't turn your back or hide your ball to the defense.
No, but I think you can't hit off in front of you, so you can't like do like the little jet sweep stuff. Is that what they're saying? Like the little pop pass? I don't know.
I'm gonna look that up today.
I'm going to look that up. All right. So you say week 8 for Brock. What is your realistic expectation for Trey Lance? Do you think he is going to start week 1? If so, how do you think he'll perform?
Barring injury, he should start week 1. If he's injured, then anything's up in the air. But barring injury, he should start week 1, and I think that Trey will look good. Trey is he's only played 4 games, so I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth and talk about what he does so well on the field, and he's only played 4 games. But what we have seen is that Trey is an exceptional processor. Trey can process. He just doesn't let it go, and that's reps. That's seeing it, understanding that you're seeing it, and letting it go. I think that Trey is going to be athletic but purposeful with his feet. We're not going to see him trying to outrun people. I think that that's a big thing about his game, where he's going to be picking his spots, seeing open areas of the field, getting yardage, and getting down. I would love to start seeing Trey Lance. That I think we'll start seeing is him sliding on air. Like we're going to start seeing a lot of that, him understanding that I'm playing for the next play, not the play now, right? I'm not trying to do too much to get hurt. I think he's going to start playing a lot more cautiously, but more upbeat with more tempo. He moves a little slower. I'll see the maturity, even with him talking after, like on the, I think that was the press run that they did during the Super Bowl while Trey was talking. He's grown. I expect to see that manifestation of that on the field. I expect him to be a grown man. When I see him play, I didn't feel like I was watching a grown man play. When I see Trey play on week 1, I expect him to have the command of the offense, the respect of the huddle. I don't want to see him getting up off the ground like a wounded deer, reaching up for offensive linemen. I want to see him also offensively, I want to start seeing some plays that I saw for Brock, like plays that look like Trey likes this. He understands this concept, and this was drawn up for him. I want to start seeing a lot like the passing game is tailored for his arm. I want to see longer passes. I want to see the defense being stretched vertically. All of the things that we were sold on that he was supposed to be when he got here, right? And this is year 3. And I believe that if Trey is healthy and he gets on the field, we will see all of that and more. And he's athletic. I'm frustrated at how we're hurting this kid's career because I think he needs a real shot. So that's what I want to see on week 1. I think, like we said, I think we talked about this months ago, Grant. I believe that Trey Lance will be the week 1 starter of the San Francisco 49ers in the 2023 season. He deserves to be the starter.
I think so too. I mean, they bring in Sam Darnold. They're saying a lot of nice things about Sam Darnold. They're even going to let Sam Darnold compete for the job. That's great. But, Sam Darnold is a head case. He isn't good. He doesn't have confidence, and he doesn't know the offense. So maybe eventually he'll play, but I don't think he's going to be outplaying Trey Lance in preseason training camp. I could be wrong. I just don't think he's going to look good right away because he's not good and he doesn't know the offense. So I think Trey's going to start week 1, and I think people don't talk about it that much, but not only has he not played with Kittle very much, he hasn't played with like Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell got hurt on his 6th carry week 1. Now there's Mitchell, Mason, and McCaffrey. I feel like what they can do while, he's sort of, which was the plan all along, while he's learning as a passer, run the freaking hell out of the ball. And they couldn't last year. Like, Mitchell went down immediately. They didn't have McCaffrey, and it was like Trey Lance and Jeff Wilson Jr. That was the rushing attack. Now it's not. And I think they should be able to run the ball as aggressively as Philly, as Chicago, with Trey in there. And it doesn't mean that he needs to be the focal point of the rushing attack. He could hand off a lot. But I think they could be running for 5+ yards a carry early in the season before their passing game gets, figures it out with Clint Kubiak and Trey. But I think early on, they could win games just running the ball. They didn't have the personnel to do that last year, but they're going to need all their guys to show up and be healthy week 1.
And then we're going to see what they would. We have to see what they do with the rest of that O-line. That's something to bring up. Also, I'm going to be paying attention to how much Trey Lance is running the ball himself. Exactly. I want to, because things contextualize as the season goes on, right? So let's just say, let's put on our tinfoil hats. Let's say that they know when Brock is due to be back, right? And let's say in that time, Brock should be back by week 6. Let's give them best case scenario, week 6. All right. If Brock is back by week 6, and I don't put it past them to just run Trey into the ground and get some nasty wins until Brock gets back. That's what I don't want to see. Right.
Yeah. That's what they did last year. They ran him into the ground knowing Jimmy Garoppolo was waiting. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that again. So what I'm going to say is I think he starts week 1. I think they run a lot. Maybe he runs a little too much. And I think he wins. I think he's going to change some perceptions about him because all of a sudden he's going to play consecutive games. And I think he's going to win because he's going to have McCaffrey and Kittle. And frankly, I think it's hard to lose. We saw Jimmy win with those guys.
Yeah.
Jimmy
played the best.
Yeah. So I think Trey's going to play well and he's going to win. And I think, unfortunately, he's going to get hurt midseason. Yeah. Because it's nothing about him. But I mean, this is the 49ers. So that's my prediction with him. I think he's going to get hurt right around the time when either Brock might be coming back or they might turn it over to Darnold if they really don't want Brock to play without an offseason. I mean, that's Kyle's decision, not John's.
But if we're going to go half glass full, let's say Trey does what we think he's going to do, right? Let's say like he makes it on the field, right? Which I think that's not being given enough credit for how hard that is for him to compete against a number 2 guy. I think that's just bad for the brand. That's just such bad form to do that to a kid that you picked. What's going on in the locker room, honestly? But for him to make it to the
You're
field,
making yourself look incompetent, right?
Yes. It looks incompetent.
Unprofessional.
It looks like it really looks like you don't value your personnel, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And it honestly looks like a lack of ownership. You put all of that into the kid, and all of a sudden he's fighting for the number 2 spot off 8 games.
And he's fighting with Sam Darnold. Like, we've seen Sam Darnold. Come on, man. It's not like you drafted someone else. Like, you brought in like Blaine Gabbert 2.0, and now you're saying he could play well here. Like, he's on his 3rd team. Are you kidding?
Yeah. So let me ask you this: Is Sam Darnold going to be okay with being the number 3 guy once Brock? What are you going to do? You're going to put in the injured Brock over Sam Darnold?
Well, let's talk about the realistic expectations for Sam Darnold. So we both think Trey Lance starts week 1 and goes for the first half of the season until either he gets hurt or Brock comes back. I just feel like quarterback injuries are to be expected with this team. So I'm thinking they're going to run Trey too much. He's going to have success, but eventually he's going to get hurt. And then the Niners are going to have to decide, do we go to Brock, who, hasn't done anything all offseason, or Darnold? And I think they go to Darnold. I think Brock's the last case scenario, desperation play this season. Like, if they absolutely need him, I think they give Darnold a shot. And I think Darnold plays well too. I think Darnold's going to get in. And if McCaffrey's out there, if he hasn't gotten hurt by week 9 and Darnold plays, I think Darnold steps in and plays well. Not necessarily as well as Trey, but in a different way. Yeah, enough to. I think he'll keep winning. I think he'll start playoff games and might even win 1 or 2. And then the Niners will be in a real tough situation next year. What do you do? Darnold played well. Lance played well. Brock didn't play all year, but he played well the year before that. What the hell do you do at quarterback? That's what I think is going to happen.
I think if we take a snapshot of that scenario, I see an injured Trey Lance getting traded. And
if he gets hurt again.
I see him getting traded, no matter how well he played. And I see them holding on to Sam Darnold, because why not? Sam Darnold needs somewhere to be, right? And I see them
don't make him the highest paid player in the league, though. Please don't do that.
No, but then they're going to double down. Then they're going to double down on Brock and say that he's rehabbed for a whole year. And right now we still have a very affordable quarterback situation. And all we have to do is, we're not even looking at the would-be rookie who they're going to bring in. They still have to get another quarterback.
They do. Absolutely.
Right?
They absolutely do. Right. Because they need 3 in training camp.
Yeah.
So look, I just feel like Darnold's in an interesting spot because, they have to give Trey a chance. Brock probably won't be ready right away, but
Sam's
it's always like
money.
Yeah, like you want to be the last guy on the field with the Niners at quarterback. Like you want to be the last man standing, and I think he's in perfect position to be that guy and actually start games. He could be the guy in December and January, just like Brock was last year. He could be Brock this year.
Yeah.
So I just think it's what happens if he becomes Brock this year, steps in late, wins, goes to the playoffs. Like, do the Niners call him the franchise quarterback because of 3 months? Or do they give him a contract? Like that's so their pattern. It'd be really interesting to see if all of a sudden they just fall in love with Sam Darnold because I don't know.
Well, I got something for you though, Grant. Like,
tell me.
All of these scenarios, they all seem plausible because of one thing and one thing only. We're winning when all of this is happening.
Yes.
Right? And we play so many games with the quarterback position, but the only thing that has really hurt us is that we've only had to bear the brunt of the consequences with one loss, right?
Yeah.
Because we just lose once, then we can go back to talk about what we have to do to get back because we were winning the entire time.
Yeah.
Imagine going through these scenarios and we're getting our teeth kicked in and week out.
That's right. And let's say they start Trey Lance week 1 and they lose.
And we lose.
And they lose. And all of a sudden.
Let's do this scenario with lose.
Yeah, let's say they start Lance week 1, they lose. They start Lance week 2, they lose. They lose. And all of a sudden, week 3, week 4, 0-3. Here comes Brock. Here comes Brock to save the day. Here comes Super Brock. He's lacking confidence. He's and you lose. And he gets, and he's not as safe. And now all of a sudden, his stock's down. And you're at week 7, and you're 2-6. And you're looking at Sam Darnold like, hey man, do you want to play out the rest of the season?
Sam Darnold don't look so good at 2-6.
No, he doesn't. And all of a sudden he's playing out the season like he did last year for Carolina. That could happen. So,
yes. So I only brought that up because we always
It's a good point.
We bring up so many scenarios as if the rest of the league don't get paid to win games. And we're not going to be doing all of this musical chair stuff. Do you look at the hubris around those scenarios?
Yep.
We honestly think that we're going to have our 7th round pick coming off of a elbow injury, who's waiting to our undeveloped rookie who we hadn't put enough time into, to the journeyman would-be quarterback who we just snatched off of a losing team. And we think that all of these scenarios, for some reason, could be plausible because we have a good roster.
Meanwhile, the rest of the league's looking at the Niners like, ooh, they don't know what they're doing at quarterback. This is a good year for us. Like the Seahawks are like, hey, we might win the division. We know who our quarterback is.
We started this out with, we don't respect the position enough. And there's a reason why.
Right. In fact, you could say that they respect the position less than any team in the league.
Yeah.
Like, they respect it less than the Bears. The Chicago Bears respect the position more than the Niners.
You know what's crazy? For the people who are sitting here who are I can feel the people on our necks right now who are saying that we're wrong. How do you explain us overlooking Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson? Yeah. All right. How do you explain us turning down Tom Brady? How do you explain us not doing the homework on the other requisite quarterbacks in the league? Yeah. How do you explain us putting away giving up our future to get to 3 and still not even knowing who we were going to pick at 3. That was real.
Yeah. Like it doesn't matter.
Real.
Yeah.
It doesn't
like the
matter.
Chiefs traded up for Patrick Mahomes, not a spot in the draft.
It's time to own it. Like they really believe the quarterback of our team is Kyle Shanahan.
Which is gross.
Yeah.
Real quick, Kaliki Carroll says, I missed your super chat. No, you're the one that says, what if, he comes back and he's Nick Mullins? Like, we got you. Mm-hmm. Kaliki, what if he's Nick Mullins? Even Jamarcus Russell got 31 starts before Oakland gave up on him. Yeah, Gabbert got more than 20. Like, the Niners are really treating this kid like he's Paxton Lynch.
Well, it's really about them, though, right? It's about how they want to look. It's not about, they don't have the stomach to ingest a player to make him better because they all want to win. So they don't care.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not that there's anything Trey didn't do well.
Yeah,
he got hurt, and they're like, "Oh, we have a win now team. We need a quarterback to win his first game and go on a winning streak. Otherwise, you're not the quarterback for us."
Yeah, because we don't have the type of players that can ingest what we say on and behind the podium. Like that's not real teammates. It's like, dude, if you're good enough to keep everybody winning, cool. But if not, We'll
try the next guy. Jalen LeGrant says, why do y'all assume Trey's ankle is good? Could linger. 2 quarterbacks have come back from Purdy injury, been fine. Also think Baltimore sneaky trade spot. Trade spot.
Oh, he thinks Baltimore is a sneaky trade spot for Trey?
Yeah. It's a fair point because I feel like Dak is hella slow ever since he came back from that broken leg. But that was a broken leg.
Well, that's why I mentioned, like, I don't expect to see Trey like running, like trying to outrun people. He already had enough athleticism to get to evade and get to where he needs to be. I just think that Trey needed a little bit of a wake up call. Is that you're not more athletic than everybody on the field, bro. You're not.
Yeah, and you weren't then. Now you won't be now for sure. Yeah. Donald Johnson says Trey Lance is a seed that you put into the soil. He needs to be watered and nurtured. Don't complain about your plant not growing when you haven't watered it. Thank you. Loyal to your soil.
Yep. That's real.
Yep.
That's real. Yep. You can't ask for what you didn't put in. And they ain't put nothing into that boy.
I totally agree. Official B&M Music 88 says Kyle and SF is getting a pass for entertaining Darnold getting QB1 snaps. Other teams would get cooked, but boy, Genius is going to perform a miracle.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Imagine
if the coach were like Nathaniel Hackett or Jonathan Gannon or Robert Saleh. The media would be like, this guy's a freaking idiot. But it's Kyle, and they're like, man, with Kyle, it's like, man, that's revolutionary. That is so smart. He's so good. And it's like, I don't know, maybe the answer is somewhere in between, but it's just so reflexive to praise Kyle. Praise Kyle. I don't understand. Yeah, maybe it's not Kyle's fault right now, but like what's going on with the Niners is so weird.
Like I don't see how, like the way things fly. It's like you spent all of this on this quarterback. We poured all of this time into him, and after his third year, he's got 4 starts. And you got him competing with a journeyman.
Sam Darnold, yeah.
That's nuts to me.
Scribemine says Kyle Shanahan was drawn up QB counter bash for Trey on the flight home. He's not Josh Allen. They don't want him. They never wanted him as a passer. Apparently Kyle wanted him because he was drawing up plays for him. But that does when John said that was kind of like a little way of saying, hey, you know how Kyle didn't want Jimmy and I did? Well, Kyle wants Trey and I didn't. He was the one drawing up plays. I wasn't drawing up nothing. Kyle was the one who said he liked him. So I was like, okay, great. You must know what you're talking about then. Kenny G says Darnold is not competing. Kyle is just saying that to stand on that. Trey earned it against Cabo. Click. The reps will tell it all. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But it's also
and I do hear what Kenny is saying. Like, that's why I reference, like, Kyle is talking to a lot of different people, and so is John. So he is talking to his locker room as well. He doesn't want to just double down on Trey because, in a way, the locker room could be looking at Kyle like, man, we did that last year, bro. We doubled down on him. We said that he was the guy. And then he got hurt. So
let's have a competition.
Yeah.
All right. So Kyle's like, all right, we'll bring in Sam Darnold, who, fits right in the Cabo crew, but Trey beat him out. Could happen. Or we could start hearing George Kittle, doing press conferences being like, man, Sam Darnold, he's so good. He is so good. I had no idea.
Sam guy? How about that Sam guy? Like, shut up.
Can't wait for that. Just watch Sam Darnold lowlights vid. The floor is low. Oh, yeah, he's made some bad plays in the NFL. Man. A lot of turnovers. He's the kind of guy that'll lose games for you. That's the thing with Sam. what Brock did was like, and Jimmy last year, and even Trey, like they don't necessarily turn the ball over a lot. You know, they won't beat you themselves. If Darnold starts doing that, like you can't play for the 49ers if you just turn the ball over because they can win without you. I think Trey intentionally force feeds Kittle the ball to help win the locker room thoughts.
I haven't seen Trey play enough with George.
George needs to be out there for that to happen. If Darnold equals white Jameis Winston, does Kyle equal Sean Payton? I think Jameis Winston's better than Darnold.
Jameis Winston's way better than Sam Darnold.
Way better than Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold man.
He's never really played well except for maybe a month last year. Maybe a month.
He plays well in stretches. Like
he beat the Lions.
Fucking Lions.
He did. He actually beat the Lions. So I don't know. Maybe. Nah,
I mean, the Lance household has to be at full froth. They have to be livid at this, man. Like you didn't put anything into him. Yeah. You know, like he hurt his ankle, and you know, for
you essentially put him on the shelf for 2 years and then gave up on him after the second year.
Yeah.
How do you do that to someone's career? I don't know.
And not just a career, but this is the quarterback spot. You know, this is what you're supposed to. He's such a great kid. We invested this. We did all this psych eval stuff.
We need a game changer. Well, no, actually, we're just going to settle for Brock Purdy now.
As a matter of fact, what's even crazier is like how he talked about Trey juxtaposed to players like Brock, ergo Mac Jones. Remember when we thought that Mac Jones was going to be the guy, and we were thinking everybody was swearing up and down that he was Kyle Shanahan's guy. And then when it finally came out afterwards, Kyle was saying, well, no, what you really want is you want a guy that can process, but you want a guy that can actually run and do more than what it is. Like, we're not here for a game manager. We're here for, you know, something that's above a game changer.
A game changer.
Like,
And now John's trying to act like Brock is a game changer.
Exactly.
I don't know. He was better than Jimmy last year. He was a lot of fun. He does run around. That's cool. Is he a game changer? What's the best throw he's ever made? I don't know. What's his arm talent? He's got leg talent. He is quick, but what's his arm talent really like? He's not Russell Wilson, man. Russell Wilson threw gorgeous passes when he was younger. I mean, he still does. He had one of the best deep throws I've ever seen. Brock's not like that. Brock, those check down passes.
Well, you know, in the NFL is its own brand of football. They're going to figure out how he plays.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying?
He doesn't throw to his right. There are things with his game. There are holes in his game. He always rolls left. He never throws right. Like, guys, we might want to see a little more from Brock Purdy before we start getting rid of guys.
Another thing that kind of gets me too, Grant, is like, you know, even though Trey played for such a short amount of time, there was high scrutiny on like his injuries, like his finger, and then he had the knee, but Brock didn't go through those 8 games unscathed. He could not even throw to make it to that Seahawks game, right? He barely threw the ball in that game, right?
True. He was beat up a lot.
Yes, in that 8 games, if you think about it, that was a mini season for Brock. And if you really want to, you know, be fair about it, he ended the season on an injury. So what are we really talking about?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's true. Yeah, now he's gonna make it through 17 games a year. That little Brock. Official band at Music 88 says Kittle already bought a Sam Darnold crop top.
You know he did.
Ooh, that's funny. That's what an image. Tyler Caressley says, guys, can we agree that we love budget journeyman quarterbacks just to keep the roster intact and keep us relevant and make us look better than we are as a football team? I think it's interesting that Robert Saleh went to the Jets. First thing he did was get rid of Darnold. And now Kyle's like, I love Darnold. Like, what? Don't you guys talk? Christopher, thank you very much. Christopher Kyrus.
I really agree with that last comment, though. I think that we're more interested in just being in the mix.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the mix, you can always come back into the club, right? But you know, if you actually win it, then you get the scrutiny of expectation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Yeah, man. Well, they do want to be in the mix. And the thing is, like, again, I compare them to Green Bay. The Yorks didn't want Aaron Rodgers. The Yorks said no. And it was very much about his personality. Like all the stuff that he's showing now, man, he's been this way since Cal. He's a very arrogant know-it-all who thinks he knows more than the coach and the owner, has always been this way. And Green Bay went into business with him for a long time. They only had one Super Bowl to show for it. The Niners said no to him. And it was one of the most controversial decisions in franchise history, but you can see why. And you can see what they want to be as an organization. They don't want to be dominated by a quarterback, which probably, I mean, it's like, it's a necessary evil in today's football. Like, you think the Bengals are upset that they landed Joe Burrow? Like, oh man, now we got to have this guy telling us what to do the next 15 years. Like, that's a good problem to have, man. I don't know.
Well, I mean, outside of Bill Belichick, the biggest thing that happens when you get an all-time coach, an all-time quarterback, is you forget about the head coach. It's not the head coach's team; it's the quarterback's team. So, broken crayons still color. And I think that Trey Lance being treated as an afterthought in the middle of his development is frustrating, to put it lightly. It's you don't see a player through that way, and I think that he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. And I think that we may have ourselves a little bit of a situation where if Trey stays, I want him, if I'm just talking from a human level, if Trey stays and he balls out, I want him to gut the Niners for every last red cent they have. I do.
Impulsive says, I feel like the true measure of a quarterback is the floor. How bad can it get is how to evaluate quarterbacks. Trey Lance BP floor is manageable. SD floor is scary. Oh, man. Nick Wood, thank you for becoming a new member. Guys, it's noon. I got a dip. Thank you very much for watching. Coach, great stuff, man, as always. Man. Take care, guys.